Greetings! Another day, another ridiculous project that I had no inkling that I would be doing when I woke up this morning, but well, that's just how the day goes sometimes. And yes, once again I'm going to be playing with something that perhaps I ought not to be, and making probably a hash of it. And it's going to be, I'm afraid, like the last project, related to Bluetooth and radios. And I think, oh David, how many Bluetooth radios do you need? Oh, I've got an awful lot of these things as well, you know. But check out this beast here, a proper 1981 ghetto blaster. Isn't that rather marvellous? And wouldn't it be even more marvellous-er if it could play music direct from one's digital device? And yes, I am back on the key one here, because I bought a Motorola G7 Power. Oh my god, the Bluetooth on that is dreadful. The bloody Bluetooth, the Wi-Fi, the GPS, all very problematic. Lots of people moaning on the internet about it. Lenovo, who own Motorola, haven't even acknowledged there's a problem, let alone issued a fix for it, and yet it's still down on the Which website as being a great phone for the money. Well, I had a word with them about that, I can assure you, so I had to go back to my old phone. But anyway, at least the old wireless technology on this thing works pretty rock solidly. And this thing here is something that I've already converted to Bluetooth. I did it 6 years ago. My god, how time flies. And rather clumsily, because it's been knocked off, hanging off the edge of it here is a Bluetooth receiver, which was once adhered to the side. Actually, this is a different Bluetooth receiver to the one I originally fitted. But it worked rather well, and the way I did this previously was, I've got the existing electronics in here. This Bluetooth receiver is connected effectively to the record function on the tape player, which has been jerry-rigged to always be on. The motor's disconnected, but the unit, when it's in tape mode, is always in a permanent record state, in which case it takes the information from the Bluetooth receiver, takes the signal from that, and then blasts it out of the speakers. And rather funky it is too, or at least it was. But the electronics, well, they're old and they've failed, and I don't have the technical nous to be able to fix it. It's only coming out one side now. I've had these controls apart, these potentiometers, and I've cleaned them as best I can. But obviously there's more to it than that, because I'm only getting sound out of one side and it's rather distorted. So you know what, I think it's had its chips. Therefore, my plan today is to disconnect the electronics within there and to make use of these things. A pair of computer speakers which I've had for about 20 years, and you can see by the state of them they're pretty grotty, because they've been in my attic for, well, a large part of those 20 years as it turns out. I can't even remember the last time I used them. I've just taken them out of the attic and plugged them in and connected them via a cable to my telephone instrument here, and I can confirm that it does indeed still blow your bloody socks off. There's a good sound coming out of these. So what I'm hoping I can do is to nab the amplifier out of that, to stick the amplifier into this, connect the amplifier to the speakers in here and hope that they're the same impedance and everything, so it all works okay, and to drive it all perhaps from one of these little buck converters which we looked at on my Makita video, my Makita radio video. They didn't do the job for me on there, but this might be just the job here. If I can get a DC supply in, and I think it will take up to about 30 volts or something like this, I'll have to check the spec sheet. But if I can get a DC supply in, then coming out of here I can set a 12 volt supply. That will drive up to 3 amps, which ought to run both the amplifier, and also I'm going to put a natty blue LED strip along the top there to light up that dial, I think. I've got one here which is going to hang around on the van forever. I bought this for a project years ago where I needed some waterproof LED tape, and you know what? This stuff is shite. It ain't waterproof at all, or at least it didn't seem to last for very long. Despite my bunging it up and using the end caps and all that kind of stuff, it's actually filled with something, but the water somehow still managed to wreck it. But then the supplier I was using back then, well, their products were crap. Every LED product I had out of them, every style of product failed. Didn't matter if it was a bayonet cat lamp, GU10 lamp, LED strip, you name it, I had it out of them, and I was running around doing warranty returns for ages. And they phoned me up one day and said, why aren't you ordering it from us anymore? And I said, well, because every style of product I've ever had from you has failed. Oh, but we offer 2-year warranty on everything. Oh, that's fine then, isn't it? I'll just go back around the customer's house, rip it all out, bring it back to you, get some more stuff, put it back in, and wait for it to fail again, shall I? Yeah, marvellous. You're all right, mate. So, this could go rather well, or it could go rather disastrously, but I haven't really got a lot to use because apart from having a rather fantastic look about it, it's currently useless. I don't intend to take the... Oh, you know, I just realised, that's a shame. There's an LED level indicator in there, which I rather liked. That's not going to work anymore, is it? About 30 years ago, I made one of them, but there's no way I'm getting into that now, for goodness sake. I mean, I've got other plans with my day, you know, it's other things to be getting on with. So I need to just sort of do this and have it ticked off, because again, it wasn't on my to-do list today, so that's rather unfortunate, but never mind. Maybe that can be a future project, to make an LED level indicator, or get that part of it working again. Damn shame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up first of all and have a look at what the power supply is currently putting out and whether that will be compatible with my broken buck converter. We're inside the gubbins, and you can see a bit of my efforts previously to make an alteration to this, in that there's a power supply here that isn't part of the original board. Put there. This was actually a USB power supply, I recall, USB charger power supply, just to provide a tidy 5 volts for the Bluetooth receiver. Yeah, that's a good point. We're going to need 5 volts for that, aren't we? But we're going to need 12 volts for the amplifier and the LED strip. And also I've got to think about the volume control, because obviously this volume knob is no longer going to do its thing. So I might have to just sort of get rid of that and use the volume knob from off the donor speakers. Anyway, we're inside there. There are a couple of blue LEDs there already that kind of light up the dial, and they're just sort of shoehorned here. They come off a 5 volt source there through a dropper resistor. In fact, that used to be where the motor was connected. So when I disconnected the motor, because obviously I didn't need it whirring away, I connected a couple of blue LEDs there, but I'm going to go try and get a strip in there, and like I say, that ought to look a bit funkier, hopefully. Right, well, nothing more to do in there for the moment, so let's chuck that to one side, get these speakers in bits. As we can see, there's not a lot. I've seen this, got a sort of master-slave arrangement, if you're allowed to say such things in this day and age. There's not a lot in this secondary speaker. All the brains is within this one here. So this is the board we want to take out, and we'll disconnect the wiring to connect the output of this board to the speakers within the radio. So let's chippity chop these. Hopefully this little lot can slide out. It's obviously got some shield in there, which is interesting. This is where this project's going to fall over, of course. There's probably some humming or buzzing or horribleness that causes me problems. I'm going to have to snip that there just to get that out for the moment. You know what, I'm a fool, aren't I? Why did I bother opening up that one? I didn't need to open up that one. I'm not using anything in there. This is the problem when you're trying to do unplanned things while alcoholically impaired. Don't try this at home, children. We don't need any of that gubbins. All we need is this. I'll tell you what we will need. We need the back of this to tell us what these different ports were. So we have our power in, we can ignore sub out, speaker out, and input are what we're interested in today. Right, I've got the beast powered up. And the reason for that is because I want to know what's coming out of this power supply here. 8.7 volts. That's not really going to do it for us, is it? I'm having to think on the fly a little bit here, but I've got a plan. It might just be crazy enough to work. I'm thinking we ditch the mains input. So we lose the power supply, the USB charger board I put in previously, the transformer, the supply to all the gubbins in here. That's all gone, unforgotten. And what I do is I take a spare laptop power supply. Goodness knows what laptop that ever fitted. But that puts out a nice clean 19 volts, and look, just live in the battery compartment. It saves me having to piss around with power, because coming out of this will be a nice clean, regulated, rectified 19 volts DC, which I can then run through my little buck converter. Oh, I keep dropping that, don't I? My little buck converter to convert down to 12 volts to drive the LED strip and the amplifier board. So far so good. I do need 5 volts for this TP-Link thing still though, and if I'm not bringing 240 volts into here, then I guess I'll have to use a second buck converter to give me a 5 volt source for this to run off. It's a bit of a pain, but it doesn't matter, I've got a bag of the thing, so what the hell. I'm just trying to make use of what I've got here as well, of course, what I've got to hand. There's a couple of things I was looking at. I was looking at this potentiometer here, and ease or lack of for getting it relocated to the top here to give me a manual volume control, and you know what, it looks like it's awfully fiddly and a bit of a pain in the arse. I might just leave that inaccessible in there but turned up, so that the volume control is all just via the device that you're using to zap tunage via Bluetooth, i.e. the volume control on your phone or whatever. So there's that. I might do that just for ease today. And maybe in the future I'll look at relocating that, because the day's getting on and I don't want to be doing this all day. I was also looking at the board that's got the LED volume indicator on there. Looks like it takes a 9 volt source from the board here, and then you've got this blue wire, which is what connects to the where the audio input appears to be, that drives the display. But again, I might have a look at doing that. I just wondered if I could power that separately, because obviously it's already separate to everything else. If I could just power that separately, then maybe I could still connect that to the input of the amplifier here and get those little LEDs still dancing away. But I don't know, it might be more trouble than it's worth. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to strip out these gubbins, fit this power supply into the battery compartment, bring the 19 volts out into this thing, and off we go. There we are. Might be ready to stick it there, might be. Bit of hot snot or something. Well, that should just keep it out of the way of everything going in. In terms of speakers, well, here's our left channel. Lovely stuff. And our right channel is the blue there and the black. So they're good to go to interface to that board. Let's pop in this power supply and the buck converter. I know, there'll be electronics people like Steve at SDG will be horrified by all this. I wish I were clever enough with electronics to be able to really do useful things with it. There you go. I'll have to find a clover lead for that. I'm sure I've got one somewhere. So what I'll do is I'll drill some access for a clover lead to come through there, and that can just stay out of the way in there. That's quite nifty, that. I think that's kind of made for the job. And like I say, because it's an off-the-shelf power supply, it just saves some arsehole from me trying to prat about with one. Right, so 2 buck converters fitted. So let's just get that out, soldered onto there if I can without burning myself. Come on, stick, you bastard. There we go. Right, if we power on now then, we should have 2 buck converters. We just need to see what's delivering what. Each one has a red light on it. That's a good start, isn't it? So this one here, can get my probes in. 5 volts on the nose, that must be the one I just adjusted. And this one here, 18.4 volts. Let's give that one a good old twiddling. My feng shui is not going to allow me to leave that slightly high. I'm going to turn it down. I want 12.0 or nothing. Oh, you bastard. To hell with it. Anyway, we're just going to remember that that's the 12 volt output, that's the 5 volt output. And let's not get them the wrong way around. Right, unplug that. I suppose next I want to fit the amplifier board. Okay, let's start with the speaker connections. Now, every time I turn this camera on, some noisy car or motorbike goes past. I've got to have the window open because it's quite hot today, hot and humid. So apologies for the road noise. It's quite a quiet street ordinarily until I'm trying to do something. And then everyone in their bloody tractor wants to go past. Right, this jack here was the speaker out to the secondary speaker, I think. They've actually used the stereo jack on the PCB here, but it's only a mono output. The 3rd pin isn't doing anything. So, speaker negative. Let's get some of these wires. Speaker negative goes here, and speaker positive goes here. Lovely. I'm putting these on now because that will sort of dictate where this board sort of sits in here. I think it's probably going to go up there somewhere, isn't it, in this sort of space? Because there's not a lot else of room to put it in. So we've also got, obviously, these wires here, which go to the right side speaker. They're going off to a little connector on here, so my choice is either to bring those 2 speaker wires. I think there's going to be really going to be long enough, aren't they? Tell you what, I'll put a couple of gel splice connectors on there to hold them in place. These things are great for splicing together comms cables or low voltage signal wire or whatever. Got a box of 1 billion of them. I've got a link to them on I think I got from Amazon. I'll stick a link in the description if they're still there. They're gel splice connectors. They've got a gel within there, a little metal connector pole. You shove a couple of wires in. It does come with you can get a special tool for it, but pliers work just as well. Crush it down, and that pushes the 2 pieces of metal together to hold the wiring in place, and it splurges out a load of gel to keep the moisture out. So they're rather nifty to use. I shall use them here. They're not quite their intended purpose, but as I say, they've got me out of trouble a few times where I've needed to connect small signal-like cables together. I hope all this works because I'm planning on kicking it off large, pumping some tunes to this mother. I should be most disappointed if it all just goes bang or whatever. It makes a farting noise at me, which is entirely possible. So just push our wires together in there like so. Give it a good old crimpy crimp. Squeeze that down, and I don't think you can see that, but there's some splurgy gel there, and they're nice and tight. jolly handy things. Anybody who works in comms will recognise them. So they're used by people who's splicing up telephone lines and such. There we are. That's our speakers connected. What's next? I've got to get power to the board. Crap, which one was which? That was the 5 volt, wasn't it? And that was the 12 volt. So I've got to take an output off that to the input on here. That's negative, that's positive on the DC jack. And I've got to connect my signal cable from the Bluetooth receiver. In fact, what am I going to do with this Bluetooth receiver? At the moment it's sort of hanging around on the outside, but perhaps it doesn't need to be. Perhaps I ought to put it inside. The reason it's the old one was on the outside is because the old one had a pair button on it. These TP-Link ones are quite good. There's no buttons on to pair. They will grab onto whatever they were last connected to, and if you want to pair it to something else, you just disconnect the Bluetooth from the phone or the tablet or whatever. The blue light turns white, and that just means it's ready to accept a new pairing connection. And you just tell it where it is and off it goes. Do I want to leave that on the outside? It'd be handy to see the light. I might just leave it on the outside. Again, this is all very half-assed. You know me, I'm not going to give you my whole arse, only half of it. I'm going to stick that on the outside just so I can see what the light's doing. I remember that this audio lead though, this was a pain in the arse because it's so flexible that the wiring inside is almost like a fabric. It's quite awkward to solder. Maybe I should change it. Just have a look through my junk drawer and see what jack leads I got. Aha! Happy earphones supplied with a mobile telephone of yesteryear or something. Goodness knows where these go. They're actually Apple ones. Oh no, they're not. Look at that. It's bizarre, isn't it? They've got an Apple logo on, but it's backwards. Wow. So, yeah, that's a thing. So they're obviously some kind of knockoff rubbish. Goodness knows where they came from. Weird, isn't it? Anyway, crappy old earbud headphones that came with phones or whatever. There is a good source of stereo jacks. Let's just hope that this isn't as iffy as the earbuds that it was connected to. Right, well, they were a bit awkward to solder on, and I've had to blob a load of hot snot over them just to keep them in place, but they should be there. So the last job now is to connect our 12 volt buck converter to the input here. I say the last job before I test this to make sure it doesn't explode before I worry about doing anything else, is to connect the power supply to the board, and then we can do a test by plugging the jack directly into my phone and making sure that some humpa-dumpa music pops out, and if it all looks like it's working swimmingly, we can proceed with the pretty bits, which is to stick the LED strip in. If it all goes bang, then I'm just going to pour myself another fat gin and not worry about it. I know it's a shambles, I know it's amateur, that's the point of it. It's just one of those projects to muck around with, for goodness sake, don't worry about it too much. I know it's cack-handed. What's going on? Bloody commenters, you're all sounding like the wife. Isn't there something better to be doing on a weekend? I don't know about better. There are a million other things she wants me to be doing this weekend. I must have a bit of an awkward job here, soldering that on with this. Where it is. I wasn't thinking ahead, was it? But then if there was any thinking going on with this thing, I probably wouldn't have started it in the first place. I might tidy that up later. At the moment I just want to get this basically connected so I can see if it explodes before I worry about it being too finished. socket that'll do. I'll tell you that up later. Right, so that's turned on. Right, let's plug this sucker in and see if it fires up, or if I need to get the fire extinguisher. So far so good. We've got red lights on our buck converters, so they're doing their thing. I've got a green lights on the amp board. Bit of buzzing coming out of speakers. Kind of expected that because we had that with the Makita radio I converted, and I had to buy a thing to put in there to squash that. But anyway, let's plug it into the phone and see what happens if we pump some chowns through it. Ooh, that sounds alright. Probably just to be wearing headphones. Yeah, well that's alright, isn't it? Coming out of both speakers there, nice and loud. I've got the volume set quite high on here, but I think that's probably as high as we're going to get it without it starting to sort of distort. Yeah. So I think I'll leave that at a set level and allow the volume to just be altered from the app. Cock on. Well, so far so good. Of course, what we want to do now, these hold some power for a little while after you plug it, don't you? What we're going to do now is obviously neaten that up, get that secured in. Is there anything else to connect to there? Yes there is, isn't there? There's the... no there isn't. That's all done. So that can get hot snotted on there, I can sort out that power cable properly. That's all done. Then it's just then a case of what we were going to do with connecting this to the buck converter, the other buck converter. I was talking about having that on the outside, wasn't I? Now that new jack plug works rather well there, so I can glue that to the outside. Get that connected to there. Oh, let's get on with it. And again with this TP-Link thing here, it's got an indicator light on it. Oh, it's a horrible whining noise. That should turn blue when it picks up the phone here. There we go. I have to do something about that horrible noise, aren't I? I'm going to have to try one of those noise removal things again. Turn the volume down a little bit on the board there. Working a treat though. It's just when you stop it you get all that noise. I don't happen to have another one of those things, so let's open up that Ryobi radio and nick the one out of there. I'll say Ryobi, I mean Makita of course. I've switched out to Makita now, aren't I? Okay, here's the beast. It's all hot snotted in here to break it out. Basically this little dongle sits in line and gets rid of all your horrible noises. So let's try that here. Again, I'll link to this in the description, so we take that out there, plop that in line. If if we fire up now, hopefully we'll find no horrible noises. Certainly sounds a lot quieter. Not hearing any whistlings or anything. There's still a bit of a buzz. That's just a bit of background hiss, you wouldn't notice that with the music playing. Why hasn't this come on yet? Oh, there we go. Right, blue light. Yeah, peachy. Right, the last bit then is to get some of this LED strip in. Give us some blue light over the dial, so if we cut that probably about there. And then I'll have to put a couple of fly leads on that and drop it onto the 12 volt supply. Not a lot to this. You've got positive, negative, and your audio input, and it's it looks like it's just this resistor array here which does the job of setting which LED lights up. Ought to be able to shoehorn it into that there, but I don't know. I don't think it's more trouble than it's worth prattling about with that this afternoon. I shall, however, have a closer look. Now this is interesting. I don't know how well you can see that, but I've connected the board for the level indicator to the 5 volt supply and the input wire to one of the speakers, and it's working just fine. Look at that. So I do get to retain my level indicator after all, which I'm rather chuffed about. That's the LED strip adhered to the top of the unit facing down across the display here. But I think we're finally ready, apart from connecting up the strip with the 12 volt supply. We're finally ready to hot snot this back together, get the screws back in, and to kick it off large. Alright, we're back together. I haven't glued that on the side yet, but obviously that can be done any time. Let's plug in. Oh, check out that blue display. Right. Just waiting for the, it's got a blue light on this thing. I'm going to wait for it to turn white. So that indicates it's chatting to my faithful BlackBerry. Oh no, it turns blue when it's chatting, doesn't it? Working nicely. Pleased with that. Let's get this fucking party started.